Hi, OAC community. I'm Kendall, and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. Today, I'll be speaking with Dr. Robyn Pashby about how to navigate common stressors that often accompany the holidays. Dr. Pashby is a clinical health psychologist, a passionate member of OAC, and someone who has both personal experience with and a family history of obesity. Dr. Pashby has spent the last 15 years incorporating mental health care into obesity treatment in a variety of settings, and most recently in her own behavioral health group practice. Welcome, Dr. Pashby.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's get started. So how does holiday stress commonly impact people's eating habits?
What an important question as we just finished up Halloween when we're recording this and we're moving into the rest of the holidays. I see a lot of a range of experiences, I'll say, around the holiday stress and eating. So for some people, there's an increase in stress, not only in just the demands of time, family to visit or things to do or gifts to buy or things to plan, which can increase stress, which then can cause more emotional eating. For others, I see a lot of pressure around body image and body size, particularly when interacting with family, particularly as we approach the new year, where there's going to inevitably be more TV commercials around weight and weight loss. So I think that in general, if people can think of it as we're going to experience an increase in our baseline stress, whether or not you're someone who gets particularly stressed by the holidays, there is just sort of an increase in activity and things to think about. So in general, I would say most people's stress goes up. When people's stress goes up, inevitably people seek to cope with that stress. Some people turn to food to cope with stress. There's good reason for that. It temporarily works to help address some of that anxiety or feeling of discomfort. So if you're one of those people and you're listening today, I hope what we're talking about can help.
Thank you for that, Dr. Pashby. Now, what role does societal pressure and family dynamics play in holiday eating and drinking habits?
Well, again, it so varies by person, but I would say that when people feel like they have a good support system with their family or friends, and that people want to support a healthy way of interacting with food and drink, then people can generally leave those experiences feeling really good about them. But for most of my clients anyway, and certainly for me over time, it can feel a little more conflicting because food in our culture is so much about an expression of love. And when people want to share their love with you, when you're getting together with people over the holidays, for example, there can feel like a lot of pressure to eat things that you might not normally eat, things that you only get once a year, or things that your great aunt makes only so many times in your life. And so there's a lot of history, a lot of tradition, a lot of culture, all wrapped up in food. And therefore, people's experience of what they need to do or should do or want to do can change during the holidays. And I think it's really important when we're talking about this to understand that those pressures that people face to change their eating habits are hard to overcome. They can sort of trip people up who are working on maintaining a healthy lifestyle.
Right. And that said, are there any specific techniques or coping mechanisms that can help people reduce stress-related overindulging during the holidays?
Sure. Well, the first thing I would say is, as we talked about in the first part of this interview, when we think about the baseline stress going up, right, independent of whether or not you feel particularly more tempted, if your baseline stress level goes up, then what I always say to people is, then that's a call to us to increase our baseline way of coping. So really to make sure that we're focusing on some of the foundational behaviors, like getting plenty of good sleep, like getting plenty of good hydration, like getting outdoors every day, trying to move your body in a way that feels healthy and good to you. If you're a religious or a spiritual person, making sure that you put your time into those practices, finding social support. So those are our foundational tools that I think we have to think about mattering when we think about our baseline stress going up. But in particular around the holidays, the things I want people to think about are what are the sort of unwritten rules that come along with holiday stress? For example, do people feel pressure to set New Year's resolutions around weight? And if they do, what does that mean around the holidays preceding New Year's? Does it mean that people feel tempted to have their last sugar or their last whatever because they're thinking that they'll have to cut that out after January, right? So being aware of some of those unwritten rules that we write for ourselves. For example, going into, say, a Thanksgiving meal, if people feel like they need to restrict or they make bargains with themselves, okay, well, I won't eat very much during the day so that I can save it all for the big meal, or like those are sort of unwritten rules that can really trip us up. So I first encourage people to really think about what thoughts do they have that are contributing to some of the behaviors that we might see. The second is just behavioral, right? Really paying attention to nourishing your body regularly and consistently with foods that you enjoy. Sometimes I even encourage my clients to make a list of the healthful foods that they really enjoy so that it's available to them anytime. And then they can make sure to stock their fridge with things that they really like so that it doesn't feel like, you're making a choice between Grandma Flo's favorite pie and celery sticks, right? It doesn't need to be quite so all or none or quite so black and white. And then I ask people to think about how some of their other behaviors play into some of the triggers around eating. So for example, people who overspend during the holidays or overbuy, people who set unrealistic expectations for themselves around how they're going to decorate their home or how many visits to church or how many people they're going to help or all of these sorts of things, because the more unrealistic expectations we set for ourselves in the area outside of food and eating, the more that baseline stress level goes up. So we really want people to be thinking about all aspects of our lives because they all connect to how we interact with food.
Absolutely. That's incredibly helpful. Are there any other ways that individuals can balance the enjoyment of the holidays and festive foods while maintaining their health goals?
So I guess what comes to my mind is I often think about let's focus on and, not or. There can be a temptation when you've struggled with weight your whole life. There can be a temptation to say, well, I'll eat this way for now, and then I'll get back on the wagon, or I'll, sort of hit it hard, or I'll do something important in a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a month or two. And so rather than think about like, that's then and this is now, thinking about this is my life. And what I'm really hoping to encourage people to do is think like, my life is every moment of every day, and I'm allowed to treat my body in a way that feels good to me. So part of it is just mindset, right? Really thinking about nourishing your body and not thinking of the holidays as starting on Halloween and ending on January 1st. Because if we think of it like that, it's just this sort of chunk of time that we sort of abandon a lot of the things that generally help us, the routines, the patterns, the sleep, all of those things. So we want to think of this as like, just this is a part of our lives. The other thing is really thinking about consistency, right? Flexibility is how people achieve consistency. In other words, the more rigid people get, the easier it is to fall into that all or none, on-off thinking. The more flexible people are, recognizing, yeah, if Aunt Flo shows up with her favorite, my favorite food that she makes, I'm probably going to have some. And if I eat some, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. I can take care of myself and have Aunt Flo's famous thing. Like once we start thinking about being flexible with the way we approach food and being flexible with how we take care of ourselves, then we recognize that we can maintain a consistent, healthy lifestyle over time.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pashby, for helping all of us understand how we can cope with stress during this time of year and have a healthy and enjoyable holiday season.
Thank you so much. And I hope that people feel supported by this talk and all the other awesome things you guys are doing.
Thank you again, Dr. Pashby. It was great speaking with you.
You too.
Now, we'd like to take a moment to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all of our donors out there. It's your incredible support that makes this type of programming possible and free for everyone. Thanks to you, we can continue bringing science-based education and thought-provoking discussions to individuals worldwide. If you'd like to support our efforts, please make a donation today at obesityaction.org/donate. Together, we can make a lasting impact and create a more informed and empowered community.